Bold of you soldiers to enter my throne room while court is in session. I hope you've something worth my time, or, at the very least, worth your lives. The resistance, you say? Fascinating. And their leader? What of their leader? Splendid. Bring him forward. Well, well, well. The little hero brought before me at What is this? What is this? Why is he bruised? I gave express orders that he was to be unharmed. Unharmed. Does he look uninjured to you? I don't care if he fought back. I don't care if he slaughtered your entire regiment. You were to bring him to me without hurting him. You know what? No. You're not worth wasting my time on right now. Guards, arrest them. Then the rest of their company and the commanding officer they served under. I'll torture them all to death later. The court is dismissed. I said dismissed! Finally, we're alone. Now, to focus on what really matters. I'm sorry they hurt you, my dear. I assure you, it was not my intention. No. Capturing you was my intention. Coming face to face with you, the leader of the only resistance movement in recent memory, that was my intention. No. Not for torture, not for death. Something much more interesting. I have an offer for you. My, so aggressive. Your hatred knows no bounds, does it? Poor thing. Do you even know why you fight me? Yes, of course you know why, but not why. Understand? I thought you might not. Think about it. Why is it that you are the leader of the resistance? What drove you to stand up against me when no one else would? Obviously, it was the right thing to do. Anyone could see that. But no one other than you even bothered to try. Why do you think that might be? And let's add to that, shall we? Everyone who opposed my rise to power over the years is dead or worse. Why aren't you? No, I could have crushed your little group any time I wished. This was simply the first opportunity I had to capture you alive and unharmed. Or, so it was supposed to be. Yes, I wanted you alive. If I hadn't, you'd be dead. Had you yet thought to ask why, when it would be so much easier to just do away with you? Let's answer those questions together. To do that, we need to tell a little story. The story of a young conqueror, long before she achieved limitless power, when she was still barely a warlord. Bear with me for a moment. It will all make sense. So, a young conqueror, fresh off of the high of great victories, but with ambitions for so much more. Somehow, and that is a tale we don't have time to tell, unfortunately, she came upon a magic spell. The kind of magic the world dreams about. Magic for which kings would beggar their nations. Mothers sell their children into slavery. Brothers stab each other in the back. A spell that would grant eternal life. Oh, forgive me the melodrama. I've been waiting hundreds of years to tell this tale. Regardless, yes, a spell to keep a single being eternally young and healthy forever. The only problem was, even for a ruthless warlord, the cost in blood was appalling. But she knew that if she ever wanted to realize those ambitions of hers, she couldn't be held back by little things like morals and ethics. The only course forward was clear. She had to remove everything standing in her way, even if that something was part of her. I see that expression. Yes, it sounds so unthinkable, doesn't it? But of course it would, to you. To her, excising kindness, compassion, mercy, sorrow, love, everything that makes up a soul, it was simply the only solution. No, not her humanity. Humanity isn't some abstract collection of pitiful emotions. Humanity is spirit, drive, the willingness to push through all the obstacles, to stand up against forces that cannot be overcome, to keep fighting, no matter how hard the struggle. She never gave up that. We shall have to agree to disagree, my dear. But she believed as I do, and she removed her very soul to make herself a better conqueror, no longer limited by the restraints of mere humans. She placed it in a vessel for safekeeping, and then underwent the ritual, gaining eternal youth without heed of the consequences that had troubled her shortly before. And after that, she stepped back and began to think. About the future, of course. What else for someone with nothing but future before her? She thought long and hard, and came to the realization that, while being soulless is quite good for establishing an empire, it becomes a much less useful state when it comes to keeping one. Even with absolute power, the only way to manage a populace involves a certain level of diplomacy, mercy, kindness. So, she needed to keep the soul around, to find some way to reintroduce it when it would eventually be required. She then disappeared from the public eye for a time. It felt short to her, but several centuries passed. The world at large thought her long dead when she finally returned as the most powerful sorceress to ever live. That sounds more impressive than it is, honestly. Anyone with eternal life could achieve ultimate power eventually, although most would take quite a bit longer than she did, I'm sure. Hush. It's not self-aggrandizing if it's in third person. With the incredible magics now at her command, the subjugation of the world was relatively easy. All bowed before her, and she ruled unchallenged. And so it has been for longer than you've been alive. Except, it hasn't been totally unchallenged, has it? Yes, in part, I'm talking about you. Your resistance wasn't the first, though. Before you were born, the remnants of several of the intelligence organizations of the great powers I'd toppled joined forces against me. They were difficult to root out, and before I was done, they'd managed to steal the vessel with my soul. I believe they sought to use it against me in some way, perhaps as a kind of simulcratic link, perhaps a bargaining chip. Possibly they merely attempted to destroy it. Nothing worked, of course. The only being that can damage a soul is its owner. Oh, I didn't care. I saw no use for my better nature just yet, and I knew I could always come back and find it later. I foresaw no possible way they could use it against me, but as I'm sure you've guessed by now, I was wrong. You're piecing it together, I can see. But please, I've waited a long time for this. Allow me the honor. They had no possible way to damage the soul and no way to attack me directly with it. But the more wizardrically inclined of them figured out another use. They could make it stronger. Not quite. They were able to, though, credit where credit is due, some quite impressive pieces of magic graft all of the goodness from that young warlord into an infant whose soul was still malleable. An infant who grew up to be twice as good as an ordinary person, completely incapable of standing by and watching injustice, full of compassion and love, and quite impossible for a certain all-powerful Empress to kill. Of course, I only found out about this later. A short time later to me, but a lifetime for you. I was so prepared to annihilate the resistance movement that had sprung up from nowhere, but as soon as I saw you, I knew. I knew that you were, quite literally, my better half. I could do you no harm, so I left you and yours in peace while I thought through my options. It didn't take long to realize that this was a blessing in disguise. Over the centuries, I had discovered several minor imperfections in my original plan that this could circumvent. After all, who would trust kindness from their conqueror? No one would believe a sudden change of heart from tyrannical despot to benevolent leader. Beyond that, what if there was a flaw in the reintegration process? My soul and I have been separated for a long time, after all. There could be complications. And that doesn't even mention, I was no longer sure whether I wanted my better nature back. I've grown quite used to life without silly, inhibiting things such as remorse or morals. Having all of them in an outside figure was perfect. Someone I could call on for advice or send on diplomatic missions without suspicion, and whom I could safely ignore when not needed. You don't enjoy that particular designation, do you? I thought you might not. Well, that was my original plan, for you to be a kind of advisor in chains, a soul kept at arm's length, as it were. And yet, the plan found itself changing, without my conscious thought or approval. You see, the more I thought about you, the more curious I became.